Picture this. You've poured your heart into being kind, loyal, patient. Everything you thought would make people value you. You've stayed up late to help a friend, bitten your tongue to avoid conflict, and bent over backward to keep the peace. And yet, someone still finds a way to twist your intentions, to paint you as the villain, to resent the very light you bring into their world. Sound familiar? If you've ever felt drained trying to win over someone who's already made up their mind about you, this video is for you. Welcome to ZENLIGHT 8, where we dive deep into Stoicism and self-improvement to help you live with clarity, courage, and unshakable peace. Today, we're tackling a truth that's hard to swallow, but will set you free. Some people will hate you, no matter what you do. And that's not your burden to carry. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll walk away with practical tools rooted in Stoic wisdom and real-life stories to stop chasing approval and start protecting your peace in a world that's quick to judge. Let's get started. I was 14 years old, sitting in the passenger seat of my dad's old pickup truck, the kind with a stick shift and a faint smell of motor oil. I just had one of those days at school that sticks with you, where you feel like you're carrying the weight of someone else's dislike. There was this kid in my class, let's call him Jake. I tried everything to get on his good side. I shared my lunch, laughed at his jokes, even let him take credit for a group project I'd worked my butt off on. But no matter what I did, Jake's eyes would narrow, his words would cut, and his smirk told me he'd already decided I wasn't worth his respect. I poured my heart out to my dad, expecting a pat on the back or some gentle reassurance. Instead, he turned to me, his hand steady on the wheel, and said, "Son, some people are just gonna hate you. They don't need a reason, and you can't change their mind. The sooner you accept that, the stronger you'll be." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to believe that if I was good enough, kind enough, perfect enough, everyone would like me. But my dad was right, and it's a lesson that's carried me through decades of life's highs and lows. That moment in the truck wasn't just a father-son talk. It was my first brush with a Stoic truth that Marcus Aurelius would echo centuries earlier. We don't control how others see us, only how we choose to live. And chasing their approval? That's a trap that'll drain your soul faster than a desert sun burns through water. Let's unpack this. Why do some people dislike you, even when you've done nothing wrong? It's not about you. It's about them. Your confidence might remind them of their insecurities. Your calm might stir up their inner chaos. Your boundaries, your refusal to bend to their every whim, might feel like a personal attack. I've seen this play out in my own life, and maybe you have too. A few years ago, I was in a relationship that felt like walking through a minefield. I'd show up with kindness, patience, even sacrifice, staying up late to listen, putting their needs before mine. But every gesture of care was twisted into something else. My support was called smothering. My honesty was labeled as judgment. I kept trying to fix it, thinking if I could just find the right words, the right approach, things would change. But they didn't. And then it hit me. The problem wasn't my effort. It was their need to control the narrative, to keep me small so they could feel big. Stoicism teaches us that we waste our energy trying to control what's outside our grasp. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Their resentment, their projections, their need to cast you as the villain, that's their inner world, not your reality. Think about it. Have you ever met someone you just didn't vibe with? Not because they were bad, but because something about them didn't click. Maybe it was their tone, their energy, or just a gut feeling. That's human. Now flip it. Some people feel that way about you not because you're flawed, but because you don't fit their mold. Your strength might remind them of what they haven't yet built. Your peace might highlight the chaos they're not ready to face. And instead of confronting that, they push it onto you. They make you the problem because it's easier than looking in the mirror. But here's the liberating part. You don't have to carry that weight. You don't have to shrink to make them comfortable or silence your truth to avoid their anger. Let me share another story. Last year, I worked with a colleague. Let's call her Lisa. She was brilliant, but deeply insecure. Every time I spoke up in meetings, shared an idea, or even just stayed calm under pressure, I could feel her resentment. She'd make snide comments, question my motives, even spread rumors that I was too confident. At first, I tried to win her over. I dialed back my ideas, softened my voice, even invited her to coffee to clear the air. But nothing changed. Then I remembered my dad's words and the Stoic principle of focusing on what I can control. I stopped trying to change Lisa's mind. I set a boundary. I'd be respectful, but I wouldn't dim my light to ease her discomfort. Over time, her behavior didn't change, but my peace did. I stopped losing sleep over her words. I stopped letting her resentment define my worth. That's the power of letting go. So how do you apply this in your life today? First, recognize that not everyone's opinion deserves your energy. If someone's committed to misunderstanding you, no amount of explaining will shift their view. Instead, focus on your actions. Are you living with integrity? Are you showing up as your best self? That's what matters. Second, practice saying no with clarity. It's not about being harsh, it's about being honest. For example, if a friend keeps asking for favors but never respects your time, try this. I care about you, but I can't keep saying yes when it drains me. Then follow through. Don't apologize or backtrack. Third, reflect daily. Take 5 minutes each night to write down one moment where you honored your peace. Maybe you walked away from a toxic conversation or stood firm in a boundary. This builds what the Stoics call inner resilience, a strength that no one can take away. And here's a practical tip for our modern world. Social media. It's a breeding ground for haters. Next time you get a nasty comment on Instagram or X, don't engage. Don't argue. Just mute, block, or move on. Your mental space is worth more than proving a point to a stranger. This isn't about being cold. It's about being free. Free to live without walking on eggshells. Free to pursue your purpose without begging for approval. Free to stand in your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Because the truth is, your worth isn't tied to their validation. Your peace is your power, and no one can take that away unless you let them. As we move forward, we'll dive deeper into how to set boundaries that protect your spirit without closing your heart. That's where the real strength lies, not in shutting people out, but in choosing who gets to stay in your life and how they get to treat you. Let's talk about boundaries. Not the kind that build walls around your heart, but the kind that guard your peace like a fortress, letting in only those who respect your worth. If you've ever felt like your kindness was taken for weakness, or your silence was an invitation for others to overstep, this is for you. Welcome back to ZENLIGHT 80, where we're diving deeper into Stoicism and self-improvement to help you live with unshakable clarity. Today, we're exploring how to set boundaries that don't just protect you, they define you. Boundaries that say, this is who I am and this is how I choose to live. By the end, you'll have practical tools to say no without guilt, to walk away without regret, and to build a life where your peace comes first. Let's dive in. I learned about boundaries the hard way, in a friendship that drained me dry. My friend, let's call her Emma, was someone I cared about deeply. She was funny, charismatic, but also a whirlwind of chaos. She'd call me at 2 a.m. to vent about her latest drama, show up late to plans, and expect me to drop everything to fix her problems. For years, I said yes. I listened, I helped, I rearranged my life to accommodate her needs. I thought that's what good friends do, but every time I gave, she took more. My kindness wasn't met with gratitude, it was met with entitlement. If I hesitated, she'd guilt-trip me, saying things like, "You're the only one I can count on." I felt trapped, like I was carrying her emotional weight on my shoulders. Then one day, I hit a breaking point. I was exhausted, burned out, barely recognizing myself. I realized I'd been so focused on being good that I'd forgotten to be strong. That's when I turned to Stoicism, to the words of Epictetus. We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. Emma's chaos wasn't my problem. My lack of boundaries was. I'd let her cross lines because I was afraid of losing her, afraid of being seen as selfish. But here's the truth. Without boundaries, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own erosion. So I started small. I told Emma, I can't talk after 10 p.m. unless it's an emergency. She pushed back, called me distant, but I held firm. Over time, I set more boundaries. No more last-minute cancellations. No more one-sided venting sessions. And you know what? The friendship didn't survive. But I did. I gained something more valuable than her approval, my self-respect. Boundaries aren't about rejecting others. They're about honoring yourself. They're about saying, my time, my energy, my peace, they matter. And the Stoics would agree. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That includes saying yes when every fiber of your being screams no. But setting boundaries isn't just about words, it's about action. Let me share another story. I once worked for a boss who thrived on control. He'd pile on tasks at 5 p.m. on Fridays, expect instant replies to emails, and dismiss any pushback as not being a team player. For months I complied, thinking it would earn me respect. Instead, it earned me exhaustion. One day, I decided to try something different. I calmly told him, I'll tackle this Monday morning to ensure it's done well. No apologies, no excuses, just clarity. He wasn't happy, but he backed off. Over time, he respected me more because I respected myself. That's the paradox. Boundaries don't make you difficult. They make you undeniable. So how do you set boundaries in your life today? Start with clarity. Identify one area where you feel drained. Maybe it's a friend who always complains, a coworker who oversteps, or even a family member who expects too much. Then decide what's non-negotiable. Maybe it's no phone calls after 9 p.m. or no lending money unless it's repaid. Next, communicate it calmly but firmly. Try this. I value our relationship, but I need to prioritize my time. I can't do X anymore. Then follow through. If they push back, don't argue, just act. Distance yourself, limit contact, or, if necessary, walk away entirely. This isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation. In our hyper-connected world, boundaries are more critical than ever. Think about your inbox, your DMs, your notifications. They're a constant pull on your attention. I have a rule. I don't check emails after 7 p.m. It's a small boundary, but it saved me hours of stress. Try setting one digital boundary this week. Maybe mute a group chat that's always buzzing or unfollow accounts that make you feel small. You'll be amazed at how much mental space you reclaim. And here's a deeper Stoic lesson. Boundaries reveal who truly values you. The people who respect your limits are the ones worth keeping. The ones who get angry, who call you selfish or cold, they're the ones who benefited from your lack of lines. Let them go. It's painful, but it's freeing. I've lost friends, colleagues, even family ties by setting boundaries. But what I've gained is worth so much more. A life where I'm not constantly apologizing for existing. You don't have to be the hero in everyone's story. You just have to be the hero in your own. As we move forward, we'll explore how to speak your truth without fear, how to let your clarity cut through the noise of others' expectations. Because when you stand firm in your truth, you don't just protect your peace, you inspire others to do the same. There's a quiet power in speaking your truth, not with anger, not with drama, but with a calm, unshakable clarity that cuts through the fog of others' illusions. When you say what needs to be said, when you stand firm in your reality, you don't just free yourself. You disrupt the narratives that others rely on to keep you small. Welcome back to ZENLIGHT, where we're diving deeper into Stoicism and self-improvement to help you live with courage and authenticity. Today we're talking about how to speak your truth without fear, even when it rattles those who'd rather you stay silent. By the end, you'll have practical steps to express yourself clearly, to stand tall in the face of resistance, and to let your voice be a beacon of your inner strength. Let's dive in. I'll never forget the day I finally spoke up in a toxic work environment. I was part of a team where one colleague, let's call him Mark, had a knack for twisting every conversation. If I shared an idea, he'd dismiss it with a smirk. If I stayed quiet, he'd call me disengaged. It felt like a lose-lose game. For months, I swallowed my frustration, thinking silence was the mature choice. But silence wasn't peace, it was surrender. One day during a meeting, Mark took credit for a project I'd poured weeks into. Something snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I raised my hand and said, "I appreciate the enthusiasm, Mark, but I led that project. Here's what I contributed." My voice was steady, my words direct. The room went quiet. Mark stammered, tried to deflect, but the truth was out. Later, a coworker pulled me aside and said, "I've never seen you like that." It was powerful. That moment wasn't about winning. It was about refusing to let someone else rewrite my story. Stoicism teaches us that truth isn't just about facts, it's about integrity. Epictetus said, "First decide what you would be, then do what you have to do." For me, that meant being someone who doesn't let lies slide, who doesn't let their contributions be erased. But speaking your truth isn't about confrontation, it's about alignment. It's about ensuring your words match your values, your reality, your worth. Think about a time you stayed silent when you wanted to speak. Maybe it was with a friend who kept crossing lines, or a family member who dismissed your feelings. Why? Did you hold back? For most of us, it's fear. Fear of conflict, fear of being disliked, fear of burning bridges. But here's what I've learned. Silence doesn't avoid conflict, it delays it. And the longer you delay, the more you erode your own confidence. I once had a friend who constantly made backhanded comments about my career. "Oh, you're still doing that YouTube thing?" she'd say, her tone dripping with condescension. For years I laughed it off, thinking it wasn't worth the fight. But each comment chipped away at my peace. Finally, I spoke up. "I'm proud of what I do. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay, but I'd appreciate it if you stopped commenting on it." She was stunned. She tried to play it off as a joke, but I didn't back down. That conversation changed our dynamic. She didn't stop entirely, but she knew I wasn't playing along anymore. Speaking your truth doesn't guarantee agreement, it guarantees respect. So how do you do this in your life? First, start small. You don't need to deliver a grand speech. Try this. Next time someone crosses a line, say, "That doesn't work for me." No justification, no apology, just clarity. For example, if a coworker keeps interrupting you, say, "I'd like to finish my thought." If a family member guilts you into something, say, "I can't commit to that right now." Practice these phrases in the mirror if you need to. They're simple, but they're powerful. Second, prepare for pushback. People who benefit from your silence won't like your voice. They might call you rude, sensitive, or dramatic. Let them. Their reaction is about their discomfort, not your truth. The Stoics remind us to focus on our own actions, not others' responses. Third, anchor yourself in self-reflection. Before you speak, ask, "Is this true to who I am? Does this honor my values?" If the answer is yes, say it. If it's no, let it go. This keeps you grounded, not reactive. In today's world, speaking your truth is harder than ever. Social media amplifies noise, trolls, critics, even well-meaning friends who don't get you. I've had comments on ZENLIGHT 8 videos calling me preachy or too intense. At first I wanted to explain myself to win them over, but then I remembered Seneca's words. There is no need to be angry with those who do not agree with you. I don't make videos for everyone. I make them for those who want to grow, who resonate with this journey. So I keep going, and so should you. Your truth isn't for everyone, but it's for you. And here's a practical tip. Write your truth before you speak it. If you're nervous about a tough conversation, jot down your thoughts. Maybe it's a letter you never send or a note on your phone. For example, Before I confronted my friend about her comments, I wrote, "Your words make me feel small, and I'm done letting that slide." Seeing it on paper gave me courage. Try it this week. Write one truth you've been afraid to say, then practice saying it out loud. It's like training a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets. Speaking your truth isn't about being loud, it's about being clear. It's about refusing to let others define you. And when you do it with calm, with conviction, you don't just change the conversation, you change yourself. You become someone who doesn't need permission to exist. As we move forward, we'll explore what happens when others cast you as the villain in their story, and how to walk away without carrying their narrative. Because your truth isn't just a shield, it's a light that guides you home. Have you ever been blamed for someone else's pain, even when you gave them your all? You showed up with loyalty, kindness, maybe even love, but somehow you ended up as the bad guy in their story. It's a gut punch, isn't it? Welcome back to ZENLIGHT 8, where we're diving into Stoicism and self-improvement to help you live with integrity, even when others rewrite your truth. Today we're tackling why some people need to cast you as the villain and how to stop letting their narrative define you. By the end, you'll have tools to release their story, protect your peace, and walk forward with quiet strength. Let's dive in. I've been there, and it hurts. Years ago, I poured my heart into helping a family member through a rough patch. Let's call him Tom. He was struggling, jobless, heartbroken, lost. I was there every step of the way. Late-night calls, driving 50 miles to help him move, even lending him money I couldn't really spare. I thought I was being a rock for him. But when Tom started to spiral again, he didn't thank me. He blamed me. He said I was controlling, that my help made him feel weak, that I'd let him down by not fixing his life. I was stunned. I'd given everything, and yet, in his story, I was the reason for his pain. For weeks, I replayed every moment, wondering where I went wrong. Then I stumbled across a Stoic idea from Marcus Aurelius. You have no need to be ashamed of what is not your fault. That hit me hard. Tom's story wasn't about me. It was about his inability to face his own choices. He needed a villain to stay comfortable in his chaos, and I was the easiest target. This is a pattern we all face. When someone's not ready to confront their own flaws, they rewrite history to make you the problem. Your support becomes manipulation. Your honesty becomes cruelty. Your boundaries become betrayal. Why? Because it's easier to blame you than to look in the mirror. I saw this again in a professional setting. I mentored a younger colleague, spent hours teaching her the ropes, only for her to later claim I'd held her back. She told our team I was too intense, that my guidance felt like pressure. At first, I was crushed, but then I realized her story wasn't about my actions. It was about her fear of stepping up. She needed to cast me as the villain to avoid facing her own hesitation. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control how others see us, only how we respond. Epictetus said, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." Life will always have people who misunderstand you, who project their pain onto you. Your job isn't to fix their story, it's to live yours with truth. So how do you let go when someone paints you as the villain? First, accept that their narrative isn't your reality. You don't need to argue or defend yourself. If Tom says I'm controlling, that's his lens, not my truth. If my colleague calls me intense, that's her fear, not my failure. Second, create distance, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. I stopped answering Tom's late-night calls. I didn't cut him off with anger. I just gave him space to figure out his path. With my colleague, I kept things professional, focusing on my work instead of her words. Distance isn't punishment, it's protection. Third, reflect on your intentions. Ask yourself, did I act with integrity? Did I show up with honesty? If the answer is yes, let their story go. You don't need to convince them of your goodness. In today's world, this is tougher than ever. Social media amplifies these narratives. A single post, a vague tweet, can turn you into the villain in someone's online story. I've had viewers on ZENLIGHT 8 misinterpret my words, call me out, in comments, even spread rumors. Early on, I'd jump into the fray, trying to explain myself. But I learned, engaging with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you is like wrestling a pig in mud. You both get dirty, and the pig enjoys it. Instead, I mute, I move on, and I keep creating. You can do the same. Next time someone twists your story, whether it's a friend, a coworker, or a stranger online, try this. Write down your truth, not to send, not to argue, but to remind yourself of who you are. For example, after Tom's accusations, I wrote, "I helped because I cared, not because I wanted control." That simple act grounded me. Another tip, seek out your anchors, people who see you clearly, a friend, a mentor, even a journal. When the noise gets loud, they remind you of your truth. And here's a Stoic practice for today. Visualize the worst. Imagine someone slandering you, misjudging you, casting you as the bad guy. Then ask, can I still live with integrity? Can I still find peace? The answer is yes, because your worth doesn't depend on their story. You don't need to be the hero in everyone's eyes. You just need to be true to your own. As we wrap up this series, let's tie it all together. How to live with honor, protect your peace, and let go of the need to be universally loved. Because when you stop carrying others' burdens, you start carrying your own light. You are not here to make everyone happy. You are not here to fix every broken soul or win every heart. You are here to live with honor, to stand firm in your truth, and to walk through life with a quiet strength that no one can shake. Welcome to ZENLIGHT, where we've been exploring Stoicism and self-improvement to help you reclaim your peace and live authentically. This is the final part of our journey together, and today, we're tying it all together. How to live with honor, let go of the need for approval, and build a life that's true to you. By the end, you'll have a roadmap to protect your spirit, apply Stoic wisdom to your daily grind, and move forward without apology. Let's dive in. I used to think that being a good person meant being liked. Growing up, I'd go out of my way to please everyone, friends, teachers, even strangers. I'd say yes to every favor, smile through every slight, and keep quiet when I should have spoken up. But the more I tried to be everyone's hero, the less I recognized myself. I was losing pieces of my soul, trying to fit into a world that didn't care about my truth. Then I found Stoicism, and it was like a lighthouse in a storm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is humanly possible, it is within your reach. If it is not, stop imagining it." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't control how others saw me, but I could control how I lived. And living with honor meant choosing my actions, my words, my boundaries, not to win applause, but to align with my values. Let me share a story. A few years ago, I was part of a community group, organizing events for a local charity. I poured my heart into it, planning, fundraising, showing up early and staying late. But one member, let's call her Sarah, always found fault. If I suggested a new idea, she'd call it unrealistic. If I set a boundary, like not answering emails on weekends, she'd say I wasn't committed. For a while, I tried to prove her wrong. I worked harder, explained myself, even apologized for things I didn't do. But it was never enough. One day I decided to stop. I didn't argue or quit the group. I just focused on my work and let her words fall away. Over time, others saw my consistency, my effort, my heart. Sarah's criticism faded, not because I fought it, but because I lived beyond it. That's what living with honor means, doing what's right, even when it's misunderstood. It's about showing up as your best self, not for praise, in a world obsessed with likes, followers, and validation. This is radical. Social media tells us our worth is measured in comments, shares, and heart emojis. But Stoicism flips that script. Seneca said, "The happy life is one that is in harmony with its own nature." Your happiness doesn't come from applause, it comes from alignment. So how do you live this way today? Start with a daily Stoic practice, the evening reflection. Every night, take 5 minutes to ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? How can I act with more integrity tomorrow? Write it down. Maybe you stood up to a pushy coworker. Celebrate that. Maybe you said yes when you meant no. Learn from it. This practice builds a life of intention, one day at a time. Next, redefine kindness. Kindness isn't about saying yes to everyone, it's about being true to yourself and others. If a friend asks for help but you're stretched thin, say, "I care about you, but I can't take this on right now." That's not rejection, it's honesty. And honesty is the kindest thing you can offer. Another tip, protect your time like it's gold. In our 24/7 world, time is your most precious resource. Set boundaries around it. For example, I have a rule, no work calls on Sundays. It's my day to recharge, to walk my dog, to sit with a coffee and just breathe. Try setting one time boundary this week, maybe no screens after 8 p.m. or an hour for yourself each morning. You'll feel the difference. And here's the hardest part. Let go of the need to be liked. This doesn't mean being cold or distant, it means being free. Free to say no without guilt. Free to walk away from people who drain you. Free to live without begging for approval. I've lost people by choosing this path. Friends who wanted me to stay small. Colleagues who thrived on my compliance. But what I've gained is so much bigger. A life where I'm not constantly apologizing for being me. You can build that life too. Start small. Say one truth this week that you've been holding back. Set one boundary that protects your peace. Reflect on one moment where you lived with honor. These aren't just actions. They're declarations of who you are. And the people who matter, the ones who see your light, they'll find you. Not because you chased them, but because you stood still in your truth. If this series has spoken to you, if you've ever felt the weight of others' expectations or the sting of being misunderstood, I want you to do something right now. Comment below with 3 words. I choose peace. Share a moment when you stood firm in your truth, or tag a friend who needs to hear this. Subscribe to ZENLIGHT 8 for more Stoic wisdom to navigate life's chaos with clarity and strength. In our next series, we'll dive into how to face adversity without losing your center. Because the Stoic life isn't about avoiding storms, it's about dancing in the rain. Until then, keep walking your path with honor, with courage, and without apology. Your peace is your power. Live it.